Picture this. It's a Tuesday night. The kids are finally in bed. The house is quiet for the first time all day, and you're sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of whatever gets you through a Tuesday, and you do something you've been quietly avoiding for about 6 months. You open your laptop, you type in the URL, you log into your retirement account, and then you just sit there. Because the number on the screen, the sum total of everything you've managed to put away after 20-something years of actual working, actual adulting, actual showing up, looks like a car payment. Not a nice car either. The kind you'd be embarrassed to mention at dinner. And here's the part that really gets you. The part that almost makes you laugh, because the alternative is too dark. You make good money. You always have. You're not someone who blows cash on nonsense. You don't have a yacht. You don't have a gambling problem. You didn't make some catastrophic financial decision you're too ashamed to tell anyone about. You just got here. Somehow. You did everything you were supposed to do, checked every box life handed you, and now you're 43 years old, sitting in a quiet kitchen staring at a number that doesn't add up, wondering where exactly the years went. If that scenario landed anywhere in your chest, if your stomach moved even slightly, then stay with me, because this video is for you. And today we're walking through every major money milestone you need to hit in your 40s. Not the vague, feel-good stuff you'd find on a Pinterest board. The specific, sometimes uncomfortable, backed by actual math kind. Because here's the truth, nobody says out loud. Your 40s are not a crisis. But they are a window. And windows, as it turns out, don't stay open forever. No but no. Before we get into the milestones, I want to introduce you to someone. His name is Dave. Dave is 43. He makes $95,000 a year, which puts him solidly above the median American household income. He's got a wife he loves, 2 kids, one in middle school, one already asking about driving, a mortgage he can manage most months, 2 car payments he's slightly less comfortable with, and $87,000 sitting in a 401k he hasn't checked since the day he enrolled. Dave isn't broke. Dave isn't reckless. Dave isn't the guy at the office who brags about his crypto portfolio and then quietly disappears for a few months. Dave is just floating, doing okay-ish, getting by, which, as we're about to see, is its own very specific kind of problem. Dave is also, if we're being honest, a lot of people watching this right now. And that's not an insult. That's just the setup for something we can actually change. Milestone 1. Know where you actually stand, and let yourself feel the weight of it. Let's start with the number that anchors everything else, the retirement savings benchmark. Because until you understand this one figure, nothing else in this video really lands the way it needs to. Fidelity, one of the largest retirement account managers in the country, not some random personal finance blogger, says you should have 3 times your annual salary saved by age 40, and 6 times your salary saved by age 50. On Dave's $95,000 income, that's $285,000 by 40 and $570,000 by 50. Dave has $87,000. He is not a little behind, he's not in rounding error territory. He is roughly $198,000 behind the 3 times benchmark right now. And if he changes absolutely nothing, same job, same lifestyle, same habit of not looking at the account, he will be close to $500,000 behind the 6 times benchmark when he turns 50. That's just 7 years from now. Now, before anyone feels too superior to Dave, let's look at what the Federal Reserve's most recent data actually shows. The median retirement account balance for Americans between 35 and 44 years old is roughly $60,000, and that's only among people who have accounts at all. For 45 to 54-year-olds, it's about $115,000. Compare those numbers against Fidelity's benchmarks, and the average American is 3 to 4 times behind where they're supposed to be. And 36% of non-retirees have 0 retirement savings. Not a small account. Not a forgotten IRA from a job in 2008. Nothing. The account doesn't exist. So if you have something, even if it's not enough, you're already ahead of more than a third of the country. I'm not saying that to make you feel good. I'm saying it to show you just how serious the overall situation actually is. Here's why your 40s are the last real window. Not just another decade to sort this out later. The math stops being patient around now, and I mean that literally. A 40-year-old who wants to reach $1 million by age 65 needs to invest about $1.234 per month at a 7% average annual return. A 25-year-old needs just $381 per month for the exact same result. That's an $853 per month penalty every single month, just for being 15 years late to the party. And within your 40s specifically, every single year you delay costs roughly $60,000 to $66,000 in lost future wealth per $1,000 you're investing monthly. Not over your lifetime. Per year of delay. Think about what that actually means lived out in real life. Dave hits 67. He retires with $190,000 in savings. At the standard 4% withdrawal rate, which is what most financial planners use, that generates about $7,600 per year from his savings. Social Security adds maybe $24,000 a year on top of that. So Dave's total retirement income is roughly $31,600 per year. Sound like a lot? The average annual spending for retirees aged 65 and older is $61,432. Dave's retirement isn't a retirement. It's a math problem he can't solve. Lived out one stressful month at a time. In a house he's desperately trying not to sell. Wondering how 4 decades of showing up every day led here. That is not a scare tactic. That is the median trajectory for someone who waits until their 50s to take this seriously. Here's the milestone. Log in today. Add up every retirement account you have. The old 401k from that job you left in 2015. The IRA you opened and then forgot about. Everything. Compare the total to 3 times your current salary. Whatever the gap is, write that number down. Put it somewhere you'll see it. Because that number is now your project for this entire decade. Milestone 2. Kill the right debt in the right order. Here's something that will make Dave feel very personally attacked. People currently in their 40s, elder millennials, younger Gen X, the Oregon Trail generation, carry some of the most uniquely complicated debt loads in American history. The average credit card balance for this age group is hovering around $9.100. That is the highest of any age bracket. But, unlike every generation before them, 40-somethings today have a very unwelcome roommate living in their bank account: student loans. Federal student debt is still hanging around for roughly 1 in 5 people in their 40s, averaging between $42,000 and $45,000. And on top of that, auto loans. Dave has 2 of them. The average auto debt for people in their 40s is now $28,500 per vehicle, and people in this age bracket are taking out more new auto loans than any other age group, often rolling negative equity from the last car right into the new one, which means they're paying interest on a car they don't even own anymore, on top of the car they do. Add it all up, cards, cars, and a diploma from 20 years ago, and the average person in their 40s is carrying over $115,000 in non-mortgage debt. That is a stunning amount of money being redirected away from your future every single month, money that could be compounding. Instead, it's servicing the past. So here is the hierarchy, because not all debt deserves the same urgency. First, credit cards. This is not a background inconvenience. This is a financial emergency with a polite name. If you're carrying $9,500 at 22% interest, there is no investment on earth. Not a single one that consistently beats that guaranteed return. Paying off a 22% credit card is a 22% guaranteed risk-free return. Index funds have averaged around 8 to 10% historically. You cannot reliably beat 22% in the market. Trying to invest aggressively while carrying high-interest card debt is like filling a bucket with a hole in the bottom and wondering why it's taking so long. Second, car payments. And this one needs its own conversation. Dave's 2 car payments are probably around $1,400 per month combined. That's $16,800 per year flowing into assets that lose value literally every single day he drives them. If Dave had invested that same $1,400 per month at an 8% annual return, he'd be looking at roughly $1.09 million over 30 years. His 2 cars, by contrast, will collectively be worth about $11,000 in a decade. Most people don't run that math because they don't want to know the answer. Run it anyway. Third, student loans. If you're still carrying them in your 40s, and plenty of people are, and there's zero shame in that, put an actual end date on the calendar. Not a vague intention to handle it eventually. A specific date. Because the psychological weight of an open-ended debt you've been dragging behind you for 15 years is its own invisible tax on every financial decision you make. It clouds everything. The mortgage gets its own section a bit later because it's more complicated than it seems. But consumer debt, cards, cars, student loans, needs to be eliminated in your 40s, not managed indefinitely like it's just part of the scenery. Milestone 3. The thing 76% of you haven't done all right. We need to talk about something that has absolutely nothing to do with investment returns or savings rates, and yet might be the single most financially consequential item in this entire video. Only 24% of Americans currently have a will. Let that sit for a second. 3 out of 4 people watching this don't have one. The 35 to 54 age bracket, which is exactly where Dave lives, is the single largest group of people in America with no estate planning documents whatsoever. They have done less planning than 18-year-olds. The generation with mortgages, minor children, retirement accounts, and life insurance policies has done less estate planning than people who just became legally allowed to vote. Here's what happens when Dave doesn't have a will and something goes wrong. His assets go to probate. That's a court-supervised legal process for distributing property. The court has no idea what Dave wanted. It doesn't care what his wife assumed. It doesn't know which Uncle Dave specifically did not want making decisions. And it will take somewhere between 6 months and 2 years to sort out, while charging between $15,000 and $40,000 in legal fees along the way. And the decision of who raises Dave's kids left entirely to a judge who has never met them. Not a trusted family member Dave chose. A court. And only 36% of parents with minor children have a will. That means nearly 2/3 of parents with kids at home have quietly outsourced the most important decision of their lives to the state's intestacy laws. Laws written by strangers who have never heard of Dave's family. A basic estate plan, a will, a durable power of attorney, a healthcare directive, costs between $1,000 and $2, $500 with an attorney. One time. You'll spend more time this year researching your next phone upgrade than it takes to get this done. But here's the piece of estate planning that almost no one mentions, and it's the one that creates the most quietly devastating situations. Your retirement accounts, your 401k, your IRA, and your life insurance policies pass directly to whoever is named on the beneficiary designation form. They completely bypass your will. Your will is irrelevant to these accounts, which means if Dave got divorced in his 30s, updated his will, updated everything, but forgot to change the beneficiary on his old 401k, his ex-wife gets that retirement account. His current wife gets nothing from it. The will he carefully updated doesn't matter. And this happens constantly. More often than anyone in the financial industry likes to admit. This week, not next month, this week, log into every account and every insurance policy you own and check the beneficiary designations. Make sure the right people are listed. Make sure the people who are no longer in your life are removed. It takes 20 minutes, and it might be the most important 20 minutes of your financial year. Milestone 4. Life insurance. The math that should make you move today: about half of Americans in their 40s have no life insurance at all. Among those who do, roughly half are underinsured. And most people don't realize it until the moment the number actually matters, which is exactly the wrong time to figure it out. The standard financial planning recommendation is 10 to 12 times your annual income and coverage. On Dave's $95,000 salary, that's between $950,000 and $1.14 million. Dave's employer currently provides life insurance equal to 1 times his salary, $95,000, which covers his family for approximately 18 months before the money is gone, and Dave's wife is managing a mortgage, 2 kids, and everything else on a single income with no safety net left. That's not a safety net, that's a slightly softer landing before the same fall. Here is the number that should make you act on this today rather than file it under things to handle eventually. A $500,000 20-year term life policy for a healthy 40-year-old male costs approximately $35 to $67 per month, not per week, per month, less than most people's streaming subscriptions combined. That same policy at age 50 costs 2 to 3 times more. Life insurance premiums increase roughly 8 to 10% for every year you wait past 40. And if your health changes before you get around to it, a new diagnosis, a medication that shows up on your records, a flag on your blood work at your next physical, your premium spikes significantly. Or you get declined entirely. The window for affordable, easy life insurance is open right now. It will not stay open indefinitely. Get a 20-year term policy that covers 10 to 12 times your income. Not whole life. Not universal life. Not whatever a commission-earning insurance salesperson is excited to walk you through over a 2-hour lunch, while his excitement is suspiciously proportional to how expensive the product is. Term life insurance is clean, it's cheap, and it does exactly one thing. It pays your family if you die before the policy ends. That's the product. Any policy that also builds cash value or acts like an investment is primarily building value for the person selling it. Keep it simple. Get covered. Milestone 5. The college versus retirement trap, and the one rule that settles it. Some of you are going to feel defensive about this section. That's fine. The math doesn't have feelings, and neither does retirement. If you have kids heading toward college, you're feeling real pressure right now. Dave's daughter is 14. He's been quietly lying awake thinking about tuition. 4 years at an in-state public university will run somewhere around $120,000 to $140,000 by the time she gets there. Dave doesn't have that. And because Dave is a genuinely good father who loves his kid, he's been quietly considering pausing his 401k contributions for a few years to build a college fund. Maybe even pulling from his retirement savings to cover the gap. Here is the one rule that overrides every other instinct on this topic. Retirement comes before college savings. Every time. Without exception. Not because your kid's education doesn't matter, it absolutely does, but because you cannot take out a loan for retirement. That product does not exist. There is no government program that hands you money at 72 because you prioritized your kid's tuition over your own financial security. What there is, what is very real, is a scenario where Dave runs out of money at 74 and becomes financially dependent on the daughter whose college he sacrificed everything to fund. That is not a gift. That is a burden with good intentions wrapped around it. About 62% of parents plan to delay retirement to pay for their kids' college. But pausing 401k contributions for just 2 years in your 40s can cost over $100,000 in lost compounding by the time you retire. And withdrawing from a 401k early triggers a 10% penalty plus income taxes. Dave could lose 30 to 40 cents of every dollar before his daughter registers for a single class. Here's the counterintuitive part nobody seems to talk about. 75% of undergraduates receive some form of financial aid. College sticker prices are not what most families actually pay. And the Secure 2.0 Act now allows up to $35,000 in unused 529 plan funds to roll directly into a Roth IRA. So even if you save aggressively for college and don't end up needing it all, there's an exit ramp. There has never been, and will never be, an exit ramp for undersaving for retirement. Fund retirement first, fully. Then direct any genuine surplus toward a 529. In that order. Always. Milestone 6. The mortgage question. And why the answer isn't what you think. A lot of people in their 40s feel a deep, almost emotional pull toward paying off the mortgage early. There's something deeply satisfying about the idea. No payment, no bank, no lien on the thing you've spent 2 decades building. And sometimes, the math actually supports it. But here's the reality for an enormous number of homeowners right now. Over 60% of American homeowners locked in mortgage rates below 4% during the pandemic. If that's you, aggressively paying down that mortgage might be one of the more quietly expensive mistakes you can make. Here's why. $100,000 invested in a broad index fund at a historical 8% annual return grows to approximately $1.74 million over 30 years. That same $100,000 used to pay off a mortgage at 4% saves you about $66,000 in interest over the life of the loan. The gap between those two choices is over $1.67 million. You are essentially paying a $1.67 million premium for the psychological comfort of not having a mortgage while your money sits locked inside walls you literally cannot spend. And that's the part about home equity that doesn't get said enough. Equity is illiquid. $200,000 sitting in your home equity is worth $0 in an actual emergency, unless you take out a loan against it or sell the house. It feels like wealth. It doesn't function like wealth when you actually need it. If your mortgage rate is below 5% and the market historically returns 8% or more, you know what to do with the extra money. Don't let the emotional appeal of being debt-free override the math. Milestone 7. Max the limits. The 401k contribution limit is $23,500 if you're under 50. The average American contributes roughly a third of that. But here's the mechanism you absolutely need to know about. One that could change your retirement picture more than almost anything else. When you turn 50, the IRS lets you contribute an extra $7,500 per year. That brings your total allowed annual contribution to $31,000. If you max that catch-up provision every year from age 50 to 65, just that extra bucket, at a 7% annual return, generates roughly $730,000 in your account by the time you retire. That is not a small number. That is a lake house. That is options. That is peace of mind. But here is the trap Dave is heading directly toward. He tells himself he'll start maxing out contributions when he turns 50. He's got a plan. He feels good about the plan. And then 50 arrives, and his daughter is in her second year of college. And his parents need some help, and the kitchen looks like it's from a different era, and $7,500 evaporates before it's ever actually contributed. Life has a way of filling every container you leave open. Build the plan for the catch-up now, before 50 arrives with all its real and legitimate demands. If you can't max your 401k today, increase your contribution rate by 1% right now, and schedule another 1% increase 6 months from now. Make both of those automatic. The people who successfully hit the catch-up don't white-knuckle their way through some heroic monthly active discipline. They remove the need for discipline entirely by automating it before the decision has a chance to get complicated. Milestone 8. Check your allocation. You might be losing to yourself. This last one is quieter than the others, which is exactly why it does so much damage without anyone noticing. A lot of people in their 40s set their 401k investment allocation once, maybe when they first enrolled in their mid-20s, and have never touched it since. If you're in that group, there's a real chance your portfolio is far too conservative for where you actually are in life right now. The old rule of thumb was 100 minus your age in stocks, which would put a 40-year-old at 60% stocks and 40% bonds. But a 40-year-old who plans to retire at 65 has 25 years of compounding runway still ahead of them. And at 2.5% annual inflation, your purchasing power erodes by about 46% over 25 years. A 40% bond allocation at age 40 often cannot outrun that inflation drag. You'd be playing it safe while quietly falling behind in real terms. Modern financial advisors have largely moved to 110 or 120 minus your age as the new guideline, which would put a 40-year-old at 70 to 80% equities. Log into your 401k today. Look at your current allocation. If you haven't touched it since you were 27, there is a very real possibility you've been quietly throttling your own returns for over a decade. Not because you made a bad decision, but because you made a decision once and then let the world change around it. Let me leave you with two versions of Dave. The first Dave is the one we've been following all video. He didn't really look at his account until he was 43, and when he did, he closed the laptop and told himself he'd deal with it later. He kept the 2 car payments because a paid-off car felt unrealistic. He never got the will done, kept meaning to, kept not scheduling it. He paused his 401k contributions for 3 years to help with his daughter's college because he wanted to be a good dad, and the math felt secondary to the love. He made extra mortgage payments on the 3.2% rate he'd locked in during 2021 because it felt responsible, felt like progress. He told himself he'd bump his contributions when he turned 50. But 50 arrived with a kitchen that needed updating and parents who needed checking in on, and the moment passed. He's 67 now. His retirement income is about $29,000 a year. He has a house. He has 2 kids he loves deeply. He has a lifetime of good memories and a financial situation that quietly terrifies him every single month. He didn't do anything dramatically wrong. He just never did the right thing specifically enough, early enough, consistently enough. The second Dave made different choices. Same income, same family, same life, roughly. But at 43, he ran the numbers when it was uncomfortable, instead of waiting until it was too late. He killed the credit card debt with focused intensity. He got a term life policy before his cholesterol became a conversation at his annual physical. He spent one afternoon at an estate attorney's office and got everything documented. He kept funding his retirement even when his daughter went to college. And he found ways to help her that didn't require rating his future to do it. He set up his catch-up contribution on automatic before 50 arrived. He checked his allocation, adjusted it, and stopped quietly losing to inflation inside his own account. He's 67 now, with $880,000 in retirement savings, a paid-off home, and the thing that money at its absolute best actually buys: options. The option to retire when he decides he wants to. The option to help his kids without the low-grade panic underneath the generosity. The option to say yes to things without checking the balance first. Same decade, completely different outcome. The difference between those two Daves isn't income, luck, or some financial genius move that only sophisticated investors know about. It's a series of specific decisions made inside a specific window. Decisions that either happened or didn't. That window is your 40s. It is open right now. None of these milestones are glamorous. None of them will get you any engagement on social media. Nobody's going viral for updating their beneficiary designations or automating a 1% increase to their 401k. But in 25 years, when you're sitting with a cup of coffee and the option to be wherever you want to be, you'll know exactly which quiet Tuesday nights made the difference. Make them matter while the math still gives you a fighting chance. And if this video helped you see something you hadn't seen clearly before, do me a favor. Hit the like button, leave a comment with the one milestone you're committing to this week, and subscribe if you want to keep having these honest conversations. There are no shortcuts here, but there are windows. And this one is still open.